This is gonna be cool.
The topics and opinions expressed on the Dudes and Beer podcast are intended for an audience of 18 and up and are solely those of the host and guest. They neither reflect the opinions or values of either the sponsors of Dudes and Beer or your mother. I mean, seriously. Have you ever heard these guys? They'll talk about anything.
Whoa, hey, you think they're gonna show it? They'll probably just blur it out. Whoa, check it out, Beavis.
Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of the Dudes and Beer podcast, coming to you live today from Katy, Texas, here at the Jordan compound. I'm Chris Jordan, your host. We're here as always with our Houston co-hosts, Randy Jordan and Billy Stewart.
What up,
How you boys been doing?
Wonderfully.
Fantastic.
Good.
We've been sitting here just kind of catching up, having a beer or two, and decided that tonight we're going to do an episode about comic books and the whole market and some of the conflagration going on here in the Texas market with the Comic-Cons, things like that. So when we come back from our sponsor break, we will get heavy into it. Do you love Halloween? Do you like DIY projects? ScaryDad.com is your one-stop shop for everything DIY, from projects and food recipes to book and movie reviews, as well as the awesomely awesome Scary Dad podcast. Halloween is not just a day on the calendar. It's a state of mind. So don't sit around wondering what you're going to do this holiday season. Log on to ScaryDad.com to join the mailing list. Get the latest ScaryDad.com news and updates, from projects and DIY videos to recipes and reviews. It's everything you've ever wanted in a DIY website and more. So stop on by and visit them online today. That's ScaryDad.com. Once again, that website is ScaryDad.com. And we're back. Well, yeah, it's been absolutely amazing since the beginning of the new year with the comic book industry. We have launched into a whole new realm of comic book movies. Deadpool just came out. Well, I mean, even before that, we had the Star Wars movie right up around Christmas time. And then that led into Deadpool for Valentine's Day. And we are getting ready to come up on Superman versus Batman.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Which is going to just be some epic awesomeness. It's going to be incredible. Well, and I also forgot, we're also going to be talking about some great homebrew that Billy did. We're going to be sampling some beverages that Billy made here. He's made some apple ciders, that kind of stuff, kind of gotten into some of the homebrew. So let's start out there, actually.
All right.
Before we get too crazy deep into the topic, let's talk about all of the nice brews that we have here before us this evening, Billy. Let's pour our first glass.
All right. Let's do it.
Give it. So what am I drinking here? What's going into my mule mug?
This is essentially a Prison Hooch apple cider.
All right.
We've spoken in the past about listening to Survival Podcast. And on one episode of the podcast, he did a thing about small batch meads and ciders.
Yep.
And the impetus behind it is that people want to get into homebrew, but there is so much chemistry to learn. There's so much equipment to get that it's cost prohibitive to a lot of people who just want to throw together a beer.
Yep.
However, if you want to get started in ciders, essentially apple cider traditionally was made in a barrel. They'd fill up the barrel with juice and cover it with a cloth, and it would ferment over time and become cider. So essentially what we did here is off-the-shelf apple juice. As simple as you open the bottle, you pour a little bit out for headspace, you pitch some champagne yeast, and then you put an airlock on it. And if you don't have an airlock, you can use a balloon. It does the exact same thing.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
cool.
what we're drinking here is one bottle of the batch of a homemade apple cider. You set it, let it ferment for about 4 weeks at a minimum. This one actually went 6.
Okay.
This, because I bottled it into a wine bottle, didn't carbonate. But if you want to carbonate it, all you do is you rack it from the jug to a bottle, add a little bit of sugar, and then cap it.
Oh,
The yeast wakes up, carbonates in the bottle, and then you let that sit for about 7 days, throw it in the fridge, kill off the yeast, and you are good to go. So this is a still cider.
Hang on. We need to toast real quick.
L'chaim.
Since we got like medieval
Metal tankards.
metal tankards here, and I'm drinking from some horn of some beast.
That's right. Big old steer horn from Ricky's wedding.
Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's just it. It's nice and round. It doesn't have a whole lot of the bite. And granted, a lot of that is probably because of the apples that were used to make the juice. A lot of ciders and stuff like that tend to put a little bit of Granny Smith in there to tarten it up, that kind of stuff. So it really depends on the apples that are used for a lot of the flavor.
Well, what you have is generally what you'll have with a off-the-shelf cider, like an Angry Orchard or whatever. They back sweeten it.
Yeah.
So champagne yeast does a really good job of really eating all of the sugar.
Yeah.
And it takes most of the sweetness out of the juices itself and converts it into alcohol, which is what you want in a hard cider.
Yep.
But what they'll do is once the process is done, then they'll back sweeten it. They'll add, an additional bit of apple juice or whatever after the yeast has been killed to re-sweeten it.
Okay.
But the reason you use the champagne yeast is it leaves you with a dry and a crisp feel. And I wish I had brought one of the other bottles that is carbonated because that's even crisper. It kind of just bites.
Yeah,
it's got a little bit more bite to it.
Got a little bit of a bite. This is still, but
it's
hey,
fantastic.
At the end of the day, this was a HEB brand bottle of apple juice.
Mott's equivalent.
Basically a $3 gallon of cider. That's, I think it's better than what you can buy off the shelf at, especially at $8 a 6-pack.
It's fantastic.
It's like printing your own money.
Yeah.
and I did the same thing with some grape juice. This other bottle here is a homemade wine.
Nice.
It's a white wine.
Nice.
So once this cider goes down, then we'll.
Heck yeah, man.
that.
Well, many props, man. Good job on your first brew.
Thank you.
This is very well done. I've done a little bit of home brewing myself. My friends John Seymour and Erica Joyce bought me a homebrew kit whenever I lived in Maine, and I did that quite a bit for a little while, doing the little mini keg on the counter, all that kind of stuff. We had a basement, so it was a nice place to go put everything while it cured, nice and cool,
Good
dark,
stuff.
all that.
What would you say the alcohol content of this is?
A
Equivalent to a beer or more?
little more.
More?
It's
Okay.
probably close to about 6%.
Because I could see you getting pretty tanked on this really quick. Because
Yeah.
it does not taste like alcohol whatsoever.
When I sampled my first bottle, basically before I left for work that morning, I took a bottle and threw it in the fridge because I wanted to have it that afternoon, after work. So got home, hadn't had anything to drink at all whatsoever. Poured a little glass, sipped it. It was delicious, so I went ahead and threw it back. And we're talking maybe 8 ounces, and it felt like I'd drink about 3 beers.
Nice.
I was just like, whoa.
Yeah, especially whenever it's brand new. It'll,
Yeah.
there's that whole passage in the Bible about they're drunk on new wine. And
right.
buddy, I'm here to tell you,
Acts
you get a hold of
chapter 2.
You get a hold of some wine that just came out. I learned that when I lived in Rome because we even had a vineyard operating on campus. You could go buy University of Dallas bottles of wine for like $8, but everybody had a vineyard. Like the place across the street at the time we were on the Lira, there was like 3,500 lira for like a Ernest and Julio gallon bottle. And it's like, oh my God, did I just pay $2.50 for this gallon of wine? And they're like, be careful, we just tapped that. They're like, oh, okay, hey, we got tolerances, we drink good and heavy, and we did. But boy, dude, you got a glass and a half into that, and it was like somebody threw a rock at the back of your head, man. Your bell was rung.
Yeah, it'll get you.
Yeah, it'd take us a good week to go through that gallon, man. We'd bring it on the buses, stuff like that, in our water bottles. It was out of control. And
yeah, we certainly. I've got 3 gallons tomorrow. I'm going to throw some airlocks on there and start over.
What this reminds me of, though, and what it really harkens back to is some good old apple pie.
Oh, man.
Bob's apple pie, dude.
Bob's apple pie.
It's Eugene's buddy from his wedding, Bob, made this badass drink from Minnesota. Minnesota, is that right? Is that where he was from, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah,
something
somewhere
like that.
up there.
Minnesota or Wisconsin. Get on me on Facebook. Let me know if I'm
where
wrong.
Where you from, Bob?
Where you at, Bob? But it was like apple cider meets hot tamale.
Yeah.
It was like this. Yeah, it was like cinnamon apple cider. It was just so amazing. It tasted like candy. Like you couldn't put it down.
With one of my next batches, I am going to do a cinnamon. What I've found out, what I've learned is you don't do cinnamon. You don't add the cinnamon until after until about bottling time.
I would say try this,
because if it ferments the cinnamon, it removes some of the flavor and leaves it tasting like.
I would say try this, since you're going to sugar at the end to add the carbonation. Literally melt down some hot tamales and add that.
That's probably a good idea. Because
that's your sugar and your cinnamon at the same time, and it's not actual cinnamon that's going to add bitter to it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Mazel tov, guys.
Heck yeah. So, now that brewing's done, the comic book world, oh my God, man, the things that are going on right now are absolutely insane. Like, right now, let's talk about the big conflagration going on in Houston right now. We've had a couple Comic-Cons. Back in the day, we used to have numerous floating Comic-Cons that happened about once a month. They'd tag off each other, about every other month back in the early mid-'90s. We had regular cons that were about every month and a half at a local hotel.
This is a hotel ballroom.
And that's where some of these have sprung up from, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. A couple people kind of got together that did separate cons and made a bigger one. And that was that was Amazing Con that came around first, if I'm not mistaken. Between the two big cons
Amazing
here
is
in
a
town.
national act out of Nevada.
Yep.
I think they're based in Las Vegas. Comicpalooza is the biggest one locally, and they started at the Alamo.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of, is the Comicpalooza and Space City are the two local ones.
Space City started around the same time as Comicpalooza, and they grew up kind of next to each other. And what seems to be the issue is Comicpalooza got big enough that the Greater Houston Convention Association bought a controlling share in Comicpalooza, and Comicpalooza is held at the George R. Brown Convention Center.
Yeah.
There, heretofore, where nobody really thought of it as a rival, is Space City, but they hold theirs in NRG Park, and their NRG is owned by the county.
Yep.
So right at this point, I don't know if it's technically Comicpalooza, but the people who own Comicpalooza are suing Space City for the use of the name Space City.
For the use of trademark, yeah.
Right.
And that's where my debate comes in, because number one, if they've both existed for the same amount of time, why have you not come onto them beforehand? City of Houston, regardless, partnership with Comicpalooza or not. Why have you not come after them for use of trademark before?
Correct.
And I posted even on Facebook, and I'm surprised I never heard from the dude from Space City DJs. I ran across him years ago. Whenever I first moved home, we did a couple gigs together. And they're out of the Clear Lake area.
Yeah.
And you go up around there, dude, everything's named Space City up around there.
Right.
Because that's where NASA is.
The trademark that's written is very narrowly confined to only things that are tourism related.
Right.
So there could be 500, Space City printing, Space City this, Space City burgers, or whatever, but a comic convention or any kind of
brings
convention
people in from out of
brings
town.
people in. And
Okay.
if I'm not,
That's yummy. Give me some more.
I don't have all my dates right, but I think Space City Comic-Con is
There ain't no more
about
of
3 or 4 years younger than Comicpalooza.
Yeah.
I want to say I read 2009 was Comicpalooza, and 2012 was Space City's first year.
Right.
And so, yeah, I read that on Facebook the other day, this post on Space City's
well, and that was the first
page.
I'd heard of it, was on your Facebook page.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You know, because like you said, they, for all intents and purposes, I mean, they're only a few years difference apart from each other, and I don't know anyone that would eschew one over the other.
I think what the problem is that Comicpalooza is traditionally held over Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
And they got bumped by a larger convention by Microsoft, and they lost that prime real estate.
Right.
Had they had the George R. Brown at the time, then they would be up against Space City on the same days.
Right.
So.
And I honestly, I mean, I've honestly got to wonder, because Space City, I think, was later in the summer.
You're right.
That, I in the spirit of healthy, what's the word?
Spirit of America?
Competition.
Spirit of capitalism and healthy competition?
In the spirit of just good old-fashioned competition, yeah. I mean, if Space City Comic-Con's got the opportunity to pick up the same weekend, like you said, it's been Memorial Day weekend for Comicpalooza for years.
Right.
The last 5 or 6 years, I know. And so for them to come in and say, oh, we can get NRG and we can be open that weekend when they're not, I can see that. But the whole big, ugly thing is Space City Comic-Con has been going on for 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
This is their 4th or 5th year, something like that.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden, the Greater Houston Convention Bureau
is worried that they're going to damage their reputation somehow.
They will. They will damage their own reputation through doing this.
People are going to confuse this Comic-Con with the city's efforts to promote
their own
Comic-Con.
Not their own Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Their own ambitions to bring people to the Space City.
Correct.
Okay, so we don't want people associating this comic convention with the city of Houston official program.
Yeah,
but
I said,
here the whole crap thing is, they just bought 50% of Comicpalooza in September.
That's just it. That's just it. And that's what I'm saying.
2015.
That's what I'm saying, is that where was the cease and desist 4 years ago?
Right.
Because you can't tell me that it didn't appear in a city newspaper, that it didn't appear on city websites, that it didn't appear on NRG's website, that it didn't appear on all these things.
And that's another thing,
and that it isn't out there.
Is heretofore, Space City has always been almost not even a competitive, but a kind of a world in their own, and that they're more of a sci-fi con, whereas Comicpalooza is more of a comic and in general pop culture. So where Space City would have people from Star Trek and Forbidden Planet, and Comicpalooza would have people from the Avengers.
Yeah,
and
they'd have Chris Helmsworth and people
stuff like that. So even I mean, at the end of the day, you basically have the conventions are built up of exhibitors and guests. They're not built up of pencil pushers and bureaucrats. They're so like Pop Culture Company goes to both, and Bedrock City goes to both, and all these guys go to both cons, and that's where they make some money and they pay for a booth and whatnot. And what it's doing is, if you think about business, and you say, okay, well, people may choose to go to one versus the other, and so therefore we need to have a competitive advantage. Well, that's not really the case. It is true that some people, like me, for example, I'm not necessarily going to go to both, but I'm going to go to the one that's more convenient to my schedule. I'm not going to go to one because I'm loyal to it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna figure out, like I sent you guys an email. Hey, Space City's this time, Comicpalooza's this time. Which works for y'all? Who's coming?
And then you've got the amazing Houston Comic-Con Labor Day weekend.
Right.
Yep.
And if I had the money and time, I'd go to all three.
Exactly.
I wouldn't pick one over the other.
But it seems like
except now, I'm going to give Comic Palooza the finger and tell them, look, you get the Houston Convention Bureau under control.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to Comic Palooza. I read at least 4, and there's probably more now because this was like 4 or 5 days ago, comments from people who are either exhibitors or artists who rent space at Comic Palooza.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're done.
And they're like, it's hard financially.
Yeah.
Because, they may not be a big, like Bedrock or somebody like that can afford, ooh, yum, thank you. Can afford to do both.
Yep.
Because, the space is expensive and all that. So, like,
it's especially a lot more expensive. As someone who works conventions and all that kind of stuff, I'm here to tell you right now, the space is a lot more expensive at George R. Brown than it is at NRG.
Mm-hmm. And
as far as rental,
the gist of what these people were saying was it's very hard to attend both. I would attend both, but now I'm going to save my money and stick it to Comic Palooza because of this whole thing with their 50-50 partner,
right?
Yeah, the Convention Bureau. Because I'm just going to go to Space City.
I'll just go to the end.
At the end of the day, man, it's never a good. It's never a good.
It's not good business.
It's not a good business model. I always say, because of course with what I work, convenience stores, and if you've got 2 guys that are across the street from one another, and one guy brings in a taco truck and starts drawing customers over, then the other guy lowers his prices on gas, and they go back and forth. The minute one of them brings in permitting or basically the force of the state, it hurts them both.
Yeah,
it hurts them both.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts the one that if there's a legitimate lawsuit and Space City has to change their name. We're not stupid out here.
Yeah,
we're gonna be like, Deadpool Con, formerly known as Space City, is going on this weekend, and Comic Palooza is next weekend. Ooh. I know which one I'm going to.
Which one is this you just poured for us, Billy?
This is a champagne.
That's wine.
Oh, this is wine.
Yes.
Oh, this is good.
Yeah. It is.
And don't get me wrong. If the Convention Bureau 4 years ago had popped up and said, "Oh, Space City," no, you can't.
No, and that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like I guarantee you, it popped up in print. It popped up in radio ads.
And
it was all over the place.
Right.
We never would have known.
Oh, you would have changed their name, and everything would have been fine.
And
now
that happens
5 months after they've taken controlling or half interest in this competing convention.
Yep.
Now they're going to say, "Oh, you can't use that."
Yeah.
Yeah. That just stinks.
And it's bad bureaucracy, and it's a bad way to go about handling business, really. And to your point, Billy, about the fact of I'm going to support whichever one's closest to my schedule. Even talking about what you were talking about with the convenience stores, like today, I was coming back from my studio on the way here, and there's a choice getting onto 71 in Austin from my studio. There's 7-Eleven on the left, which you got to cross 3-4 lanes of traffic for. And then there's a Diamond Shamrock, or a Shell rather, right next to it on the right-hand side of the street that has a taco truck. Mm-hmm. Now, they both sell food. This guy has a taco truck. 7-Eleven has 7-Eleven food and all their vendors. 7-Eleven is literally 20 cents cheaper a gallon for gas. But the dude on the right ain't never got a problem with people, because you know why? He's on a right-hand turn at a red light right next to the friggin' freeway on-ramp, dude. You realize how many people go, you know what? I should get gas right here before I get onto that on-ramp and have to get off somewhere else.
Exactly.
Like I did today. I spent 20 cents more a gallon, supported the independent guy on the corner, and literally asked him, like, dude, you must get, like, I used to work a gas station, and I'm here to tell you, like, you must get crazy business just for the fact that you are right here at a red light next to a freeway on-ramp. Like, you're right there at the right-hand turn. People are just going to turn into your parking lot instead of turning right at the red light. He's like, oh, yeah, we get crazy cross-traffic because of that. And it's literally just, it's a matter of convenience. It's not the fact that the gas is different. They probably coming from the same damn distributor, technically. The independent dude's going to charge a little bit more because he doesn't have the corporate cushion of pricing and, distributorship. Same way as an independent bar owner or an independent anything.
Probably charging more because he's the last one before you get on the freeway, too.
Yeah.
Well,
he's got that advantage.
He does have that advantage.
Speaking of, some stuff that has been in wild, crazy no man's land. Have you guys seen the new Avengers or Captain America trailer?
Yes.
They brought in Spider-Man.
I know. It's going to be great.
That's been a contention for a really long time.
It has been. It has been. Because of the whole, not just...
Sony. Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man and Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And
no, it's Fox. It's got Fantastic Four.
Yeah. And in order to distance themselves, Marvel canceled the Fantastic Four. We canceled the books.
Cancel the comics, right?
There's no more Fantastic Four.
Well, and hey, I could see that happening after the last couple of bum flops.
That was pretty bad.
The last one was pretty bad. Pretty bad.
Yeah. It was watchable, and I sat there and I was like,
it was watchable for those of us that don't know the full-on backstory of the Fantastic Four.
Well, here's my thing.
I'm not going to deal. No, here's my deal. I'm not going to deal with adopted kids and shit like that in a storyline that doesn't have fucking adopted kids.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit back and watch Gotham and see Selena Kyle as a teenager knowing Bruce Wayne as a teenager. I'm not. They didn't know each other.
Well,
I'm not going to deal with that storyline and that fucking universe that you're trying to push on me because it doesn't fucking exist anywhere in any comic book strain that there is.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Okay, two things first.
I'm very passionate.
Number one, I just started watching Gotham on Netflix. That's pretty sweet. It's a good show. It really is. I like it.
It's done all right. It's done all right.
And we're kind of in a lull right now because we're like 3 weeks with no Flash and no Arrow. So
Daredevil comes out next week.
I know. The 18th. I'm all over it.
Yep.
So what the hell was I going to say? Jeez.
You were talking about the Fantastic Four,
Okay.
talking about the about the twins.
Number one, and I don't know, listeners, you may be much more clued into this than me. I'm just saying what I've heard on various other podcasts and things when Fantastic Four came out. But we're talking about the Fantastic Four movie that came out in 2015.
The most recent.
Right. That it is set in a Marvel continuum called the Ultimates.
Yes.
Which is... I guess a timeline of stories.
It's a tangent storyline.
It's that takes place out of the traditional Fantastic Four timeline or whatever universe, if you want to call it that. So there's different backstories. There's different, So yeah, Johnny Storm is adopted. So that explains why he's black and Sue Storm is not. So anyway, all of that stuff.
But couldn't they have just made it easier with the whole attention to diversity? Nobody really cared about like Samuel L. Jackson kind of proved nobody really gives a crap whether or not a character is black.
Right.
Yeah.
Nick Fury had 50 years of comic books where he was a grizzled old white dude.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson played him in a cameo in Iron Man.
It just wrecked it.
And everybody the world over, except for a few racist hicks, were like, Hell
yes.
All they had to do was make Sue Storm black too. Dirt. Hey.
Right.
Yeah. Conflagration gone.
It's not a matter of racism.
But that wasn't even the whole thing.
Wait a second.
I'll bring up.
In all honesty, it was really pretty much. It was a crap movie. I mean, okay, it was watchable. Sit there and eat a bucket of popcorn for an hour and a half. Okay, it's like, all right,
It wasn't. It wasn't unwatchable. No.
But
it wasn't the Roger Corman version.
Not many things are. It's one of those things where it's like Fox just can't get it right.
They can't.
They don't try.
Can't. They did the first one, the ones that came out with Jessica Alba and what's his name? Jeez, Captain America.
Yeah, Captain America.
Leave it at that. Not Captain America.
Yeah,
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans.
those were all right. They were a little funny. They were a little campy.
Yeah, there were some campy parts, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of Galactus with the Silver Surfer. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that backstory, that kind of stuff.
Galactus in that second movie
it failed. It failed. To Billy's point, I got this baller cup not too long ago that has all these different characters from Star Wars, and it doesn't have Mace Windu. But they actually combined Mace Windu with Yoda. It's like Yoda L. Jackson.
Oh, nice.
Take a look at it, dude. It's like,
Can happen, you I will. Say what one more time.
it's like, what the hell, dude? You're gonna give Yoda these baller sideburns all the way down like mutton chops. But
say what one more time, you will.
But oh my god, man! Yeah. Now, granted, have you had a chance to visage Deadpool yet, Billy?
I have not.
Oh, okay. We can't talk Deadpool then, because there would be. I would probably have to say best superhero movie ever. Like, hands down, they actually did the character justice. They did the storyline justice. And granted,
with a $52 million budget.
Yeah.
$52 million.
Yeah.
That was it.
Next to nothing. Next to nothing.
And they'll probably back up, and I'm stealing this phrase from another show, they're probably, Fox is just going to back up a dump truck load of money for the next one and say, here, do it again.
Yep.
And I forget the director's name. He's like, you know what? I don't want to do it with any more money. I want to keep it like this because they just...
The production value was amazing.
Well, because
it was so well done.
The director, I heard, comes from a video game background.
Yep.
And so, you're trying to make kick-ass, effects.
And not just that, though. I've noticed, and as a video game, I'm probably really the only video game player amongst the table here. And I'm not even a gamer anymore. But I was in the PS2 days, and I was in the beginning of PS3, and that was really the advent of the team player superhero game. And if you look, especially in Avengers and shit like that, like, you see them set up the super moves. Like, you can literally see the part in the movie where it's like, oh, welcome to the cinematic section of the video game.
Right.
Like in the whole section of the last Avengers movie, where the section of the SHIELD ship gets shot down, and Tony Stark has to go underneath and fix the fan, and all, like, that is straight up a cinematic part of the video game, where that is your mission, is to fix the fan.
Right.
So you can see them actually, like, whenever they're on the bridge and you see, like, Thor come down on his shield and it blasts everybody. Like, that's a team move. Like, they are actively building these cinematics into the movie so they can directly draw them from the movie and put them in the video game. It's really great cross-promotion. And it's fantastic use of both platforms and, like you said, the platform of proper use of CGI. There's nothing like the improper use of CGI. And the last 3 Star Wars movies have shown us that.
Oh, yeah.
The newest Star Wars movie I loved because it was like the first ones. It straight dropped you into battle. You had no idea why you were in battle. You had no idea in the first one why suddenly a ship was under attack. But it was. And it wasn't just that. There were actual sets. People were walking past real shit.
I think that, yeah.
It actually, like, engulfed you into the film. And it was hard to tell some of the parts in Deadpool that were cinematic CGI and real. They did a really seamless job of marrying those two worlds together.
Speaking of, like, briefly, the Star Wars prequels and how dead they seem, it's kind of funny. I have the original trilogy on VHS. I didn't bought the DVDs because I didn't like the special edition stuff. Well, the previews to the movies on the VHS, there's a preview for basically the making of the movies.
Yep.
It's a VHS you could have bought 30 years ago, but in it, George Lucas is standing there and he's talking about special effects, and he's like, story is first. A special effect is cool, but a special effect without a story is really kind of a boring thing. And then you fast forward and you look at the prequels and you're like, you said it, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you said it. Like, the problem with the movies was that it didn't seem like you cared about the story.
Yeah, it was straight up a 2.5 hour long advertisement for ILM.
Yep.
Right.
And granted, I'm not going to say necessarily a forced storyline. I mean, some of that stuff was kind of written, loosely written. But I think there was quite a bit of it that was kind of wedged into place with the idea of making the last three happen, because that was always the wish of us fans who grew up with Star Wars, was we want to see what happens after the Emperor. We weren't even necessarily like, if I could see how Darth Vader was made, that was cool. That would be cool. But I understand why I don't. I would like to move on with the story.
Well, without going into great detail, because you can pick apart the prequels for hours. But I think the problem was that as a child, remember playing, and there was rumors like, like Obi-Wan and Darth Vader fought, and Obi-Wan kicked his ass, and that's how he got his breathing apparatus.
Yeah. Very,
very simple, straightforward, And then Obi-Wan talking about in the first movie how he was a good friend, and he was betrayed by the dark side and stuff. So there is that, but I never cared or wanted to see a personal story arc of Anakin / Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And if you look at the original trilogy, they're character driven, but you drop in, boom. You meet R2-D2 and C-3PO. Boom, you meet Leia. Boom, you meet Darth Vader.
Right.
And cut scene, here's Luke Skywalker.
Right. Yeah,
you don't
have an hour and a half of Galactic Senate crap and all kinds of political intrigue and
it's not, you understand how they're all sort of loosely, you understand how they're related and how they kind of come together and what kind of forges their friendships. But they're, imagine if they would have, because obviously Luke Skywalker was the main character, but the movie didn't focus on Luke at all.
Nope.
The movie focused on this group of friends dealing with the crap that they were sort of just thrown into.
Right.
And that's what makes a movie. That's what makes something compelling, something you care about.
Yeah.
Anakin, you never really got a chance to care about him. He just got kind of sucked into all of this shit that was,
Well,
it's like, oh, you're the chosen one. Oh, well, that's something to throw on a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
Right.
Something that I brought up, there were two big points that I've brought up before in episodes is, number one, Jar Jar. The second movie, the whole reason, in my theory anyway, as to why Jar Jar was the one that voted executive powers to Senator Palpatine and made him into the Emperor, was because everybody fucking hated Jar Jar, and you had to, in some way, shape, or form, quantify his existence in the first movie. Like, he was there for a reason. The whole reason he was there was so that the Emperor could manipulate him and get executive powers, because Naboo was a huge vote.
Right.
They were a big system, so they had a big vote. They're like the equivalent of fucking California with their super delegates.
Well,
there was that, and the fact of the first three movies set up just like this last one did. The Skywalker DNA is ridden with bitch ass. Right. There he is. Like, I want to get off this planet. This planet sucks. I'm here to take you off this planet. I don't want to leave my mom. Wait, I want to go somewhere and be involved in something huge. Oh, I need to go to Tachi Station and pick up some power converters. Everyone in the Skywalker gene pool apparently has some bit of bitch ass in them that has caused this issue to begin with, and that seems to be the overall arching lesson.
I read this.
Don't be a bitch ass, and you won't be corrupted by evil.
I read this really cool article one time that was talking about how they were like one step away from making the prequels great, and what they should have done. You could have met Anakin when he was a little kid. Like, maybe he was saved, maybe in one of the, the battles of Endor or something, know. They find this kid, he does something heroic, he saves one of the main characters, and you see him at the end of the prequel, episode 1. In episode 2, he's grown, and episode 2 is full-on Clone War, Boba Fett people, Mandalorians fighting. Yeah. There's war. The government is crumbling. It's all screwed up. And Anakin and Obi-Wan, it's like a Lethal Weapon. It's like a buddy cop movie. They're running around, kicking ass, taking names, get stranded somewhere. They're at a campfire.
Lethal Weapon in a galaxy far, far away.
Right. And then, so you have part 2 where it just really elevates Anakin to a, like, superstar caliber. Like, he's unflappable, but he's brash and he's kind of got a mean streak to him. Then in episode 3, some tragedy befalls him. He gets sideways with Obi-Wan over a girl or something, and they end up having it out. But you don't have to follow a story arc of like
20 years.
Yeah, you don't need to watch this one character. Right. And like all the other characters were disposable. Literally every one.
Yep.
The only ones that weren't were the ones that they shoehorned into the movie.
Yeah.
Like, how did Darth Vader not remember that he built C-3PO? And you see all through the original trilogy, there's protocol droids everywhere.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
There's so many C-3POs. He's just one. That
like, what happened to his royalties on that shit?
Right.
You didn't trademark C-3PO, yo. Come on. you should have been getting a percentage of every one of them that was made.
But, yeah, it's like, okay, in episode 4, you hear Luke Skywalker say, like, I can hit that exhaust port. Could blast what?
I used to blast womp rats on Tatooine, and they're no more than 3 meters.
Right. Okay. So you hear that, and then the next thing you know, he's blowing up the Death Star. You hear, Han Solo brag about making the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. Okay.
Yeah, and
you don't need to see a movie about
you mean
it.
Right. You don't need to see 30 or 40 minutes of crap
now
showing okay, well, Anakin's the best pilot in the galaxy. So we're going to watch him do a freaking pod race for 45 minutes.
Right.
So here's my question then. Here's my question then. Where do you fall down on there being a Han Solo movie? Because that's already, it's not even in the works, like it's happening.
Yeah, that's like 2017.
It's got a scheduled release.
Yeah, for me, as long as it's a side stream, like, it's not episode 8. It's not episode 8 as a flashback to where Han Solo came from. Right. If it's a side stream, I'm sure Han Solo had some badass shit happen to him.
Yeah.
That would be cool to watch.
Right, yeah,
well, and there's stories based from the comic books and the novels and things like that you can draw from.
We're getting Rogue One in December.
Yep.
That's going to be cool. It's going to be a little side story,
So it's interesting. And
I'm down with it. I can see it.
I really see them at Disney anyway, because they've done a great job with the universe that is Marvel. And Marvel is, as opposed to DC, I know you're a huge DC fan. I'm a fan of a few of their prints. I read Superman, Batman especially, some Flash, stuff like that. But as opposed to DC, Marvel is truly the universe concept, where you have the crossovers all the time, where you have teams building up to each other, splitting off from each other, and DC ended up following that suit with the Justice League and stuff like that.
Well, because people ask me, like, man, you are the weirdest comic book collector ever. And I am a big DC fan, but I'm not a big DC fan in that I'm loyal to DC Comics. I grew up Batman, and when I was a little kid, and basically it was Jim Aparo. If you look up Jim Aparo and you see that rendering of Batman, that's the Batman that I grew up, and he was not, Super Friends, Justice League. For nostalgia purposes, I really appreciate and I like it. Just break the Justice League apart, and then the Justice League themselves. I like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Lantern. Boom. Those, and I like old horror comics. Mm-hmm. So I've been picking up like Bronze and Silver Age of those.
Good amount of Wonder Woman for your daughter?
Yes. And I've been picking up those books in varying conditions in like cheap lots.
Oh yeah.
Like I go on eBay and I'll buy a lot of 10 books for like $4.
Well, you just had a big score at Bedrock City.
Right, I did. But so And Wonder Woman aside, like Wonder Woman is one of those that I've always liked her.
I love her story. The story's amazing.
Well, her story's badass, but I always, like as a kid, like I like Batman because he punches. It's like Wonder Woman, she's a girl, whatever. I've always liked Wonder Woman as a part of the team. I never really cared about her personally as a, I never followed her. I never collected her stuff. If there was some crossover that I needed to get a book that was important to the story, then I would grab that issue and move on. I started picking up Wonder Woman comics because my daughter's a big fan of comic books too, and we go to the comic book store and she really likes Wonder Woman, she likes Harley and Poison Ivy. There's the Justice League TV cartoon on Netflix that we watch together.
Right.
So my thinking was, at some point she's going to get old enough and she's going to want to start her own little collection, whether it's toys or books or whatever she wants to do. And Wonder Woman books are, it's kind of a weird dynamic. They are somewhat rare.
Because the collectors were real collectors.
Well, the people that her books didn't sell as well.
I was going to say they were also in very low print for a long time.
There weren't as many of them as there were of other comics, but they're also not very popular. So you can find them pretty cheap in like dollar bins and stuff like that. Well, so if you're trying to build a collection, like at Bedrock,
it's a good place to start.
At Bedrock City, I found like 20 of them for 50 cents a piece. So for $10, I walked out with like 2 pounds of books. Like it's just like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
And but I've always liked Marvel. I like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I like the Marvel stuff. Mm-hmm. What I've been gathering up lately has been kind of old school DC Justice League stuff.
Yeah.
If I had to go, it's going to be character driven. Like my favorite all-time character will be Batman, followed very closely by Spider-Man,
right?
Followed very closely by Superman, followed pretty closely by Captain America. So it's like
Wolverine right after.
And even Wolverine is probably like not as like an all-time favorite. Wolverine's a little down there on the list as far as like must-have, but he's still up there in the like. Fuck yeah, it's Wolverine. How can you not like that?
It's one of the most epic storylines ever.
Right after Cap would be Hulk. Boom. Love Hulk. So right now I'm on a tangent of picking up a bunch of old cheap DC books because they're cheap and they're available. Funny story. I've been picking up these cheap lots on eBay. So I paid $5 plus like $5 shipping, $10 for like a 20 book lot. Get this box, just boom, of different stuff. A lot of them Wonder Woman, but Flash and stuff. Flash TV show goes out. Boom, there goes Flash.
Yep.
$1 books are now $4.
Yep.
Your $10 lot just went $40.
Well,
Wonder Woman too. As soon as I had a watch list, I have on eBay. I have watch triggers.
Yep.
For Wonder Woman lot. So basically, 2 or more books. My eBay will say, hey, this was just listed. And again, I was buying like 10 books lots for about 50 cents a book. The day that trailer hit, where she jumps out in front of Doomsday,
yep,
boom,
jacked up.
And so that's why I was so excited when I hit Bedrock, because I was
and that brings us into a conversation that you actually recently started. It was a great thread that you started with Nerds of Anarchy on Facebook, talking about the comic book grading system.
Okay.
And I rang in. I remember I was. It may have been one of the nights. It was one of the nights that I was here in town here recently for work, and we didn't get a chance to hook up. And I remember it was really late, and I saw it, and I was like, I got to respond to this. I gotta weigh in on this conversation. And you were talking about the grading system that exists, and how it's pretty much bunk. About 70% of it is based on some ethereal realm of comic book. And even I weighed in on the fact of, on our last trip to Comic Palooza, we passed by the grading booth because we'd both bought a couple books there, had them signed, stuff like that, and you wanted to have them graded. And the guy there at the booth was literally could not explain what the fuck his job was.
Right.
Like, why you needed to pay him money to grade your comic, why you needed to give him your signed comic to take with him to grade it and then ship back to you.
It felt very much like Office Space.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like,
Okay, we're talking about like the grading system with like fine, very fine,
Right.
mint, near mint,
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I have an Avengers #3 signed by,
Right.
Jim Lee that is in an 8.8 condition. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that type of
Yeah.
Well,
grading.
okay, so basically what it boils down to is this. If you're in a speculator market, you're going to make more money putting more money in your 401k than you are going to be by comic books. Unless you do this as not as a hobby, but as a serious venture, and you know what you're looking for, and you have money to spend, and you are gauging the market. What happens is, and it's not even the grading, to look at a book and say, well, this is in better condition than the same book.
Right.
And so
It's
therefore,
pretty simple.
it's a pretty simple thing. And then once you get up, but what happens is, it's this encapsulation. There's a couple of companies that you send your books to. They charge you $30
Per book.
per book to
Oh, shit.
to
Yeah.
grade it.
Wow.
And what they'll do is they'll look out and they'll grade it based on so it's a 10-point system with 10 points. So it's basically a 100-point system down the line. So you can go to the comic book store right now, close your eyes, grab anything off the shelf, perfectly brand new mint condition, box it up, pay $6 shipping to send it to the company. You get your book back in 90 days or more, 6 months maybe. You pay them $30. They send you your book back, and it's slabbed. It's encased in that hard plastic, and it's got a grade at the top that tells you that, this is a 9.6 on a 10-point scale.
Right.
It doesn't attribute a value to it.
Nope.
So you can have so if you go online, you may have some random X-Men, like an X-Men number 138, that the Overstreet guide says is worth $3, and you go on eBay and you can find it slabbed for $33. So it's only worth what you're going to pay for it. But do you really want to pay $33 for a book that Overstreet gives you $3 on?
Right.
Yeah.
The only reason this book's going to maybe become worth more than the grading is if something really bizarre happens. Okay.
Yep.
So same thing with signatures. Oh, you got to have your signatures authenticated. That costs $20 to $50 at the con. They put this little sticker on it that says this is a real Stan Lee.
Right.
But then you've got to send it in and have it graded and authenticated plus slapped and graded. So what I was saying is, if I've got a book like just random Avengers book and I get it signed by Stan Lee, when Stan Lee was here at Comicpalooza, he charged $70.
Yep.
$70 for a signature by Stan Lee.
Hmm.
So then I pay $20 for the authentication for some guy who says this. I was here and I saw him sign that. Put a sticker on it. $20 for that. Send it in. Pay $30 to get it graded. So now I'm paying $50 to protect my $70 investment
Right.
on a book that may or may not be worth cover price. And people do it all the time.
Sure. Yeah. Sounds like a racket to me.
And so I was at Bedrock and I'm sitting there looking through the back issues today, and it was on a flash book. I'm looking for a specific number. I find this book. They've got 4 copies, 4 different grades. I chose the one that was the cheapest, the lowest graded one. That's the cheapest one because I'm not worried about selling it. My thing is I'm buying the books that were on the newsstand the year I was born.
Right. Yeah.
So 1975, I go to DC. They pull out a Wikia, give you a list of everything. September 75. Go to Marvel, same thing. And I made a list. Okay, so Flash, I think it's number 236. I got it. I'm going to throw it in a frame and throw it on my wall. I don't see how or why that book will ever be worth more than $3. It could be.
Yep.
Right.
But I'm not going to pay $60 hoping that it someday will be.
Well, and
that's
the point.
And the thing, yeah. What's funny is sitting here talking about all this stuff, and I'm thinking, what was it? New Mutants number 87.
That's the one.
Where with the
First appearance of Cable.
First appearance of Cable. That
Yep.
was like the Holy Grail back in 1992.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Or 3 or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
And you had to make sure you got the first edition.
You got to make sure that you have the one with what's his name, the guy with the spikes on his hair and shit
Well,
with the googly eyes.
One, I think,
there was him, and then there was one that was black in the corner where the character normally is up above the UPC.
I thought
the
it was
black
like
was the re-release, the one with the guy with the googly eyes from X-Force.
I thought it was the background color. Like one
Yeah,
was
There
yellow,
was,
one
and there
red.
was that too. There was one that had an exciting background with the lasers coming out,
And then one of those.
and then one that was just red.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I'm like, you know,
And that,
if you had that,
and that's
all that, it was
that,
like $85.
That was exactly the
You know?
point that I was about to bring up, was the fucking comic book crash of the 90s and the falsification of a market.
And well, there we're at
You
again right
cannot fucking create rarity. You
Well,
can't. I guess you can, technically. De Beers does it with the most common element in the universe, carbon.
Right.
They say diamonds are rare. They are not. They're made by fucking pressure and carbon. Find a carbon deposit that's been there for a million
Well,
years.
again, it's-
You will find fucking diamonds.
I was talking to the
Like-
guy. I was talking.
You know, and that is ironic.
Kimberlite is not rare.
Okay, I was probably 18. I graduated high school. Okay, I was out of high school when I started collecting comics.
I remember.
And I collected with
Because you had
With
coin coin for
you know,
coin.
I had
Coin because you had a jobby job,
I had a
job.
job, and I had just gotten into reading comics, and you know, I had a girlfriend at the time or whatever, you know, but that's, you know, that's what I mean. Yeah, I'd go in and I'd at the time drop $20 or $30.
Oh no, you had
know,
actual
a week?
that's what I was going to say, because you had subscriptions at Musabels,
Right,
like,
I go to
which so
Musabels.
did I, but it would be like every 3 months I'd go pick up my subscriptions of like the 5 or 6 comics that I had subscriptions.
Right,
for.
I was
But
collecting
you
stuff
had
from you know.
you had a good 8 or 9 a week coming in,
yeah,
smooth.
I mean easily, and it was I'd go in, I'd pick them up, I read them all.
Yeah.
But that was like when the bomb went off.
That was the beginning
with-
of the comic collecting market,
Right.
as we know it.
That's when the whole industry just went haywire, and you could buy 3 different freaking covers.
It was you had
That
to get the green holographic Amazing Spider-Man. You had to get
That
the
was,
red holographic
you know, and then
Spectacular.
when they
You had to get the blue holographic regular Spider-Man.
They rebooted X-Men, and it had 5 freaking covers on it.
It did.
Because they all joined together to make one big ass.
Well,
picture.
they had the original release, which was actually in limited number. The fold out cover was in limited number. There were only like 100,000 of them printed, something like that. The other ones were printed en masse, where it was like, here's panel 1 on the cover, here's panel 2, and you assemble them together to make a big cover.
And I've got every damn one of them.
And so do I. I have the fold out signed. I have the fold out non-signed. I've got all of them individually bagged and boarded.
Well, and the thing is, it's funny because Neil Gaiman did a speech at a comic convention in the 90s, and his thing was like,
Screw all of you.
well, yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much, I
His
remember.
thing was, you're going to implode your industry.
Yeah.
Because you're not approaching this from a
True collector's point of view.
well, not even a collector's point of view. He's like, if you want to sell books, write good stories,
Yep.
and have good art in them.
Right.
And the run your runs, and the ones that stand out will become in demand.
Yeah.
But like you said, you can't create rarity.
Yeah, you can't say we're going to print
So
a
if you're gonna
million
say-
of these and they're rare.
So calling something special collector's edition and then flooding the market with a whole bunch of basically toilet paper
Death of Superman is the prime example.
and that's what crashed the industry. And
With
Marvel went bankrupt in the mid '90s.
Right.
And stuff.
As DC was right on the verge.
And he was saying that he thought, he was a little tongue in cheek, but he was not really far off, saying that if there is if you own a comic book store and you can, with a clear conscience, sell 4 issues of the same book to some little kid,
Right.
Yeah.
you
got a problem.
That as a speculator situation, you're ripping him off.
Yeah.
These little
Right.
kids, like, this is wrong, and he's expecting some kind of big return on it. And
Well, you can't even blame the comic book store owner for
No,
doing that.
no, you can't blame the comic book store owner.
It's the freaking publishers
Exactly.
that do that to take advantage of the comics book store owner. And ultimately, the 8 or 9 year old kid that comes in there and
not even the 8 or 9 year old kid, because let's get it straight, boys. The comic book market is focused to 18 to 30.
Well, and that's fine, but it wasn't then.
Yeah, it was.
Not really.
It was, though. It was focused toward people that had expendable money, which was 18 to 30.
Which was me.
Yeah, him. in his 20s with nothing better to spend his money on.
Well, to be fair, when I started collecting comic books was whenever Batman came out in 1989. And at the time,
Batman re-release.
But at the time, all of the books were still on the newsstand. You could buy them at Kroger.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think anything of like nicks and tears on spines. It was the new Batman story.
Well, not even, and
I was in high school, or I was I guess 8th grade, but still, But hey, man, they were 75-cent covers. I had to mow a lawn. I got $12. Okay?
Well, and
I could buy 12 books.
That was even another phenom.
So if 6 of them are the same damn book, fuck you.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Well, and that was another phenom that happened was the difference between subscriber and newsstand issues. Well, because the subscriber issues of Marvel's had the character image up in the top. The newsstand issues had a barcode.
Yeah, well...
And there were technically fewer issues of the barcode printed than the normal one.
Well, then
because most newsstands didn't carry comics.
Then you got the book that comes out that's bagged with a card.
Yep.
Okay.
So you have to buy 2 of them.
So you have to buy 2, so one stays bagged in the card, just like... What the hell was it that we took and had Rob Liefeld sign?
That was my New Mutant. That was my final X-Force crossover with Todd McFarlane with X-Force, where Todd McFarlane drew X-Force because he was the artist of Spider-Man, and it was the final crossover where Rob Liefeld wrote it and pinned it. And Todd McFarlane drew it, and he was making fun of look at Cannonball. What the fuck is that donkey face? What's that all about, Todd McFarlane? Like while he's signing it. It was so hilarious. It was great.
But it was great, but it was so funny because I pulled out freaking 4 bagged copies of that thing, okay? I had one for myself, one for each of my boys, and then I think I got an extra freaking one signed, okay?
Yeah, it was me.
It's bagged with a card inside.
Yeah.
Why the hell did I buy 5 copies of that shit? Because I got them.
Because that was the thing to do.
Right.
Who didn't buy 2 to 3 copies of The Death of Superman? And within a month, it was worth $75. And then in about a year later, it was like $5 anywhere that you fucking went.
I think now, like,
New Mutants, still got 2 bagged copies.
Dude, if you
of
got
that
New
thing.
Mutants 98, you should sell that right now.
Yeah. Okay.
It's about $400. Right?
Oh, wowzers!
But it's never going to be that high again. It's going to drop.
Yeah.
Because right now, because of Deadpool.
Yep.
Which one?
98.
98.
First appearance of Deadpool. That one. If you remember with the Liefeld signatures, 87 and 98 were charged for it.
Mm-hmm.
You got 3 signatures from Liefeld, but if you brought 87 and 98, you had to pay $10 a copy.
Yeah.
To have them signed.
But 98's up there right now.
And even the Progenerator, friggin' Stan Lee. Like, I have 3 things signed by Stan Lee from the convention that we went to. We paid $20 to get in, and it was bring 3 things for everybody to sign.
Right.
You didn't pay
not $70.
$70 per signature. Because, hey, I had that sweet-ass Spider-Man shirt that I wanted Stan Lee to sign, and I was going to frame it. Like, I still get compliments on that Spider-Man shirt, and that came out when the first Spider-Man was released, at Walmart for $10.
And see, that's why I said that I'm a weird-ass comic collector, because I tell the guys, like, hey, man, I'm interested in these following things. I want old DC horror comics. I want, Golden Age, Silver Age, Batman, Superman, Flash, Wonder Woman. These are what I'm after. Condition's not important.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to pay, if I can overstreet a book and it is in perfect new mint condition worth $20. Okay, cool. I will choose a lower grade for less money because I'm more interested in the story and I don't really care about condition. I'm not a museum curator. I'm looking at the stories. I'm looking at the pictures.
Right.
Checking out the old ads because that shit's fun.
That shit's great, dude. I love looking at the old ads.
But I'm a nostalgic collector, and then it occurs to me that guys like me are the reason comic books started becoming valuable.
That's it. Exactly.
Because okay, I was I wonder, I'm just out of curiosity, what books were available the year I was born.
Yep.
And so I Googled it, and it's like, this Batman is.
A lot of very common books.
So, well, it's not that. It's like, this Batman number 267 or whatever it is, was available. It was on the newsstand September 75. Cool. At that point, I'm in.
Yep.
I've got the Justice League. I've got the Flash.
Yeah.
I need the Batman.
Yeah.
If that bitch was worth $100,
I'll pay 85.
At some point, I'm going to acquire that book. I'm going to look. And I'm going to talk.
You're going to frugally shop and find your deal.
And if I can find a little lower grade copy of it for cheaper, then. But this is the reason that books are worth something.
Yeah,
Somebody's like, I remember having that Superman comic where blah 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 happened.
Right.
40 years ago.
That was the exact point that I brought up.
I'm willing to pay money for it now because I'm a grown-up and I've got some money to pay for it.
Yeah.
But I'm not willing to buy like some fold-over gatefold bullshit from the 90s because I'm not nostalgic for that shit.
Right.
Well, I've got some of it, but I don't really care.
Well, and the final point that I made in that discussion thread was the fact...
I got those two, sorry. I got those two Spider-Man 361 signed by Bagley.
Yep.
And I don't know why I had two. I think what...
Be happy you got two.
Well, no, I am happy I got two. The reason I have two is I think I bought one when it came out, and then I had a subscription box, and... What the hell?
Ended up in the subscription box.
I ended up having two. I did not buy it because I was like, ooh, 25 years from now, this is going to be worth money. It was just a comic book. I didn't give a shit. I got a post signed by Bagley, and this dude's on, you were talking about that Facebook post. This dude's like, please, you need to get that authenticated. I'm like,
why? No.
I'll sell a signed raw copy for about $80, and I'll be happy.
That was my final point in that thread was that, and I've said it on this podcast a few times. If I'm not mistaken, one of the first episodes that we ever did together, we talked about comics and stuff like that. And I brought up the fact of comic books as we know them are one of the only truly American art forms. One of the only art forms that is true to America. We started that shit the way that comic book characters, things like that exist today. Yes, there were other comics that existed. There were comic strips, things like that became serialized, appeared in newspapers, Little Abner or Little Orphan Annie, stuff like that. But it wasn't until the birth of the American comic book, the Western, the horror, all that kind of stuff, that it really became an art form. And that form of art in and of itself only exists there. And to me, art, there's art that you appreciate and tactile art. And comic books to me are a tactile art. Like I said in that post, I love having all of my signed comics in a fucking binder. Mm-hmm. They're in a binder in sleeves, and people can, it's like a big ass comic book of comic books. And people get a trip that they are literally sitting there like, oh my God, this is a signed Spawn #1. Right. Oh my God, there's a there's a signed Bridge #1. Oh my God, there's a signed Jim Lee. Like, they're just flipping through it, and it's like, wow, there's like 50 signed comics in this book that I'm flipping through. This is wild.
Right.
And the fact that they can handle them, that they aren't treated like some sort of velvet rope fucking Mona Lisa. I'm not going to say that Todd McFarlane is not the equivalent of our modern day fucking Da Vinci. He's incredible.
Nah,
However,
he's not.
However,
not a Da Vinci, no.
No, he didn't invent a bunch of shit. However, art is valued by the people that value it.
Picasso, maybe.
Art is valued by the age it comes out, when it came out, what it meant to society when it came out. You look at groundbreaking comics like Spawn. Spawn opened up a whole new era of horror comic.
Well, you look at stuff, and bringing it back to Neil Gaiman. He was,
I say he brought it back. I mean, Neil Gaiman had it going long before that with Sandman, of course.
Well, no, what he did, he wrote good stories.
Yep.
It was a slow burning hit. But the first half of Sandman is near impossible to find.
Yeah,
people love them.
You can't find that. Well, not just that, but it was printed in such limited runs.
Right. It wasn't until it was a pretty big hit when it hit, but you're right. It was.
But it released in UK far before it released here.
No, it came out here.
Did
it ran.
Okay.
But okay, so if you want a Sandman #1, you're gonna pay $200 for it, probably.
Flat out, pretty much.
$200. You have a signed Sandman #1. You had that. Tack on another 100. You have that graded in good condition. You're looking at $500 or $600 for a book.
Yep.
It came out in 1988.
Yep.
89.
Yep.
Okay. New Mutants #98. The first appearance of Deadpool is hovering around that line. So
unsigned
with no fanfare, this book that just happens to be really freaking good is up there with all this other fluctuating speculator markets. So ultimately, if you look at it, for me, that's a grail. I want that. I want to find a raw copy somewhere that's maybe got a couple of nicks on it.
Yep. Find one in a bargain bin.
You're not going to find that in a bargain bin.
I wouldn't say that, dude. I wouldn't say that because some of the comics that I found and had signed at the last one that were, I'm not going to say like rarities, but in the uncommon market, I found it freaking half-price books for 75 cents each in pretty damn good condition.
Right.
Because three-quarters of the time they ain't going through an overstreet to find that shit. They got a few things that they're looking for.
Right.
But
No, half price is, yeah.
And I mean, I'll say the same thing for all you vinyl collectors out there. You got to go at the right time of month. You got to go like within the first 2 weeks of the month, because the end of the month will be when people go sell shit to pay their rent. Oh. It's the same thing as doing a pawn shop.
Right, pawn shop.
If you're going to go out pawn shop, if you're going to go out pawn shopping, you got to go close to the end of the month because they legally have to hold things for 3 weeks before they can put it out on the shelf.
Right.
Half-price books it in that way, though. So you could go in easily the first week of the month and find some really good shit in the bin as far as vinyl, books, shit like that. Because people are going out and selling things to try and make their rent. So you can find some really good deals out there. But like I was saying, it's one of those comic books is an art that is utterly personal. The reasons people appreciate Picasso and things like that on a totally different level than why we appreciate comics. Like you said, there are comics that you collect that are not worth money. But aesthetically and memory-wise, they are worth something to you.
Right.
Yeah, you want to know something funny? I was telling my lady a few weeks ago. All right, we listened.
You got a lady?
Yeah, I got a lady.
How'd that happen?
Yeah.
She gave us beer for the last show.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear that one. I would have liked to taste that Game of Thrones beer.
That Game of Thrones beer was awesome. I don't give a fuck what the hell Fitz says. There's no Belgian like an ass.
Oh, I like me some Belgian. I like Dutch better, though. I like Dutch.
Amen.
Yes.
Anyway, Nick.
No, what I was saying is, I remember back, and this was like 19... Okay, all right, I'm just going to go out, and I'm going to say this, all right? You remember, Dad had the place over on Overbrook, right?
Yeah.
Not Overbrook. What was that over there?
Yeah.
No, who wasn't Overbrook? Briar Forest.
Briar Forest, Overbrook.
Overbrook was down by West Town.
Okay, yeah. Okay, then.
Anyway, I was over there.
In Stonehenge, too.
Yes, that's when I was rooming with Dad.
Oh yes.
Okay. All right. This is about the time I was like a year deep.
Oh, you got all these shit boxes in your closet for.
All right. That was that was the 2 years I subsisted on deer sausage and microwave popcorn. All right. Because that's what Dad had at the house.
And the big ass Oreo cookies.
No, I didn't have any. I don't remember any freaking Oreo cookies.
That's what he had in that apartment all the time. Was those big ass Oreos.
Okay. Well, this was in the patio home there.
Yeah.
The
memories there, Billy.
So this is when Karen was back overseas with their parents and stuff like that.
In the days of the big ass blue sword.
Right. Yes. The katana.
Go ahead.
So this is when I was like neck deep in my comic thing, okay? I was buying the card collections. I was going through all of this stuff. That's what I was doing with my spare time and all my disposable income was buying up,
Toys and
card
everything.
Packs by the box and stuff like that.
I still
okay?
have a sealed box of Terminator 2 cards. I'll sell them.
Yes, I do too.
$50 for anyone that wants them.
I got a sealed pack of Terminator 2 cards too.
Oh,
yes.
box. I said,
no, that's what I mean. I got a whole box. I went into a whole freaking box of T2 cards. I think I got a Ghost Rider one too.
You do have a sealed Ghost Rider box.
Box of Ghost Rider cards. That's got to be worth it.
My favorites were the Punisher cards that were scratch and sniff gunpowder. They smelled like gunpowder.
Oh my god.
That's what we're talking about,
Right,
folks.
that's
This was
how
the market that came around in the 90s.
Ridiculous it was.
It was,
anyway,
where could we put it?
But in the 90s, Yanni's reflection of passion was
That was a monster.
super big.
That was a monster
It was
album,
super
dude.
freaking big. So when I think about my when I think about the heyday of my collecting, okay, I hear Yanni's reflections of passion playing in the background. You know, you have like a soundtrack of your life, right? Okay, certain parts of your life. So I can see myself up in that bedroom at Dad's house with all my cards and crap laid out and putting everything in binders and all that crap. With Yanni's reflection of passion. So every time I hear Yanni's reflections of passion, any song from that album, I go back to like X-Force cards. And it's so crazy, okay? Because it's like, oh yeah, that was a pretty good album. That's kind of smooth. Yes.
Oh, look at that beautiful cable sitting on the wall that I just got at Toys R Us. He's got the misprinted card with him too. That's not right.
That's right. There's that Venom toy that was taken off the shelf because of choking hazards.
Yeah, because it puts out black ooze. Sorry, there's the Yanni.
Okay, I had to share that because it's funny as hell.
It is.
It's funny as hell.
But it's true.
But it's so freaking true, okay? I think of my heyday of comic collecting, and I freaking think of Yanni. How fucked up is that?
That is fucked up, dude, because that is far from what I think of. I think of, like, my discovery of Rush and, like, Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and making out with Margaret at a laser show, like, all kinds of shit when I think
I
comic
was
books.
thinking we started this podcast talking about the comic conventions.
We did.
And I find it bizarre, with all the cosplay stuff, which, I'm a fan of, like, to be fair, there are, well, guys and girls both, mostly girls. There's some models that just dress up in it so they can go get attention and, fill up a resume. But there are some super fans that just cosplay it out. And, I appreciate that. But, man, you go to these pop culture festivals like, the Comic Cons, and there's so many women, and I just remember like going to these hotel lobbies where the only woman within a mile of the place worked there.
Yeah,
right?
And looked at us like,
what the fuck?
Nerds.
Yeah, and hey, back in the
entire
90s,
place smelled like cigarettes.
back in the 90s, we weren't even in costume, and they still looked at us like, what the fuck, you nerds?
There was no cosplay.
You'd walk through and everything smelled like
No,
cigarettes.
it was
Like,
still
now-
still an environment of shame.
Now everything is like, smoke free, pet free home. It's like get your X-Force #1. It's still in the bag and in a poly bag and smoke free home. And you're
being
just like,
sold for $85 right next to your e-cig.
Yeah. And it's like, dude, I didn't remember, man. There's like a couple of guys that sit there and smoke pipes, and the
Man,
the air was so thick in those little ass rooms.
oh yeah,
and it's just
what's
settling on all
funny?
the books, and it's
Because
like-
one of the things I brought up in there was like my
I remember tobacco smoke,
right?
and like fat old guys.
Yeah.
I don't think of Yanni.
Yeah,
That's pretty good too.
yeah. I mean, like, dude, I remember.
I think of Yeah, Greek dudes with long flowing hair. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I remember distinctly one that I went to because Randy and Gene couldn't go. I remember I asked you, and you were working at Brookshire Brothers or whatever it was that you were at the time, way back in the day.
Continental Finer Foods.
That was the one. And, yeah, I went. I was all by myself. And I remember the turnout was like nil. There was Dwayne Turner at the time, like the penciler for Wolverine and shit. And I'm like fucking 17, like hanging out, like literally just hanging out at the table talking with Dwayne Turner. Like somewhere I have a fucking Wolverine that he drew for me.
Nice.
Like I have an original sketch that Dwayne Turner drew of Wolverine somewhere in Mom's fucking garage, dude. It's somewhere buried within the gold of my vinyl LPs and shit.
I sold it.
But I mean, these are the things that make us, ladies and gentlemen. This is the stuff that, I mean, you can't pay money for it. I mean, you have to pay money to do it.
Yeah, you can. It costs me $35 to get in. $12 for a freaking hot dog.
But
$70 for
the same, just like today. I mean, I remember being in high school and seeing ads in the Houston Press for South by Southwest. Mm-hmm. And like year 5 of South by Southwest, where it's like, hey, come pay $15 and you get like 100 concerts. For $15. Like, they literally just reposted the original ad on Facebook recently for South by. I showed Randy at dinner tonight a picture that's been floating around that I've seen, like, friends of mine take, and I know the hotel loading dock that it's near. Like, I work there frequently. South by Southwest parking, $80.
Yep.
Is the fucking sign. South by Southwest parking, $80. And that's the shit that we're running into with this industry now. It used to be you didn't pay for parking at the hotel. You went and it was maybe $10, $15 for you to get in, see a bunch of artists, all that kind of stuff. Now, sure, you can go see the artist, but if you want to shake Henry Winkler's hand and have a picture taken, you need to pay $85.
I have a book. I have a Batman book. I have 2 Batman books. It's the first appearance of Tim Drake as Robin. And I can't remember the artist's name. If I think about it, I'll pull it up. But It's not important. I remember taking that book in because he was signing, and he didn't want to sign the cover. He signed the inside front page because he didn't want to mess it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like, I found that book and I pulled it out, and it's like, as I put a little post-it, and it's like signed by Miller or something. I was like, sign it. I open the front cover. It's on the inside of the front cover,
right?
But down by the credits. I was like,
because
now if I got that slab, how good would that be? Signed, but you have to break open your $40 slab in order to see the
right.
Yeah, you gotta have a Polaroid of the inside page to see it. But those are the markets that we create, guys. Those are the things that come about. We see fads pop up all the time. The fortunate thing is that comic books are an entrenched American art form. They are something that, some of us, our grandparents grew up with. Most of us, it was our dads or an uncle, something like that amongst our generation. No. For us, it was us, like my brother and I came through it really through my brother, truly. I mean, I collected some stuff because of you, because of Jason Badger, things like that.
Ironically, I came through it from Aunt Kathy, I believe, because I think one year for Christmas, she gave us
Transformers.
She gave us both a
I still have mine.
I've got mine too.
Fuck yeah, dude! The Age of Cybertron series. Oh god, it was so
Transformers. Dope. It was like a graphic novel. It was like the first 6
comics,
first 6 editions. Of the Transformers comics put into one cover. Just, something she probably grabbed at the grocery store or, TG&Y or wherever the hell. And,
oh my God.
That was
dude,
the trigger.
You gotta come across the mic for me on that. Because it was not only that was a very white high five. It was not only that, but it was when Dad came back from his trip to Europe with Cooper. And he brought me and I still have those too, the Italian versions of Spider-Man.
That's cool.
Like, I couldn't read them. But they were Italian versions of Spider-Man. And it was like, he brought me that in a fucking Pinocchio. And I remember even at my age being like, what the fuck is this disparate difference? I don't want the goddamn Pinocchio. Give me more of these motherfuckers. You know, but that's what cemented it for me. And it became this huge love. And it's still, as you can tell in my voice, a huge passion for me. I love it. And that's what this show is about, guys. It's about passions. Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, I was going to say, my kids still have a hard time today believing that, okay, I tell them all the time, and I know I've told Nathan this several times, he's named after a comic book.
He is. He is.
He's like, no.
Hey.
And his mom's like, no.
I wish to this day.
I would not have come up with Nathan.
Yep. Were it not for Nathan Summers.
Were it not for Nathan Summers, a.k.a. Cable. That's right.
And I, to this day, regret making Amy watch all of the Marvel movies. All of them.
Right.
Because I've been like, no, like, this is my thing. You need to at least know my thing. And she's into them. She likes them. She enjoys them. She was actually a little pissed that we went out and saw Deadpool without her. And I knew that she would be. She's still a little butthurt about it. I love you, baby. We'll go out and see it. I promise you. Every time I bring it up, she's like, no, I don't need to see it. Like, cold shoulder as ice. But
oh no,
had I not made her watch all of them, specifically the Sony releases, my first male child would be named Peter Parker. Because Parker is a family name. It's my middle name. And she thought it was a great name, Peter Parker Jordan. It's even great initials. But then she saw Spider-Man, and she was like, are you serious right now? And I'm like, yeah, that's where I got it from. You know, I was going to take advantage of the fact that my middle name's Parker, and I could technically pass it along. It was my grandfather's middle name. It's my middle name. It's my son's middle name.
It was Jesus' right-hand man.
Yeah, you know, Peter. It's a good, strong name. It's American.
That's right, rock.
And then she saw Spider-Man, and she was like, no. Kibosh on Peter Parker for the name.
I snuck that in.
But she is warming to Dalbus, which is nice.
Oh, nice.
I'm down with that. So, speaking of family names and summers and things like that. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a rousing conversation. I love it. I love getting together with you guys. We got to make this more frequent, even if it's over Skype, something like that. You guys got to like Skype into a session with all of us on a regular Tuesday night. That would be fun as hell.
Oh yeah.
So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, please keep tuning in. We see the numbers growing. We are on Stitcher now. That has been requested. We are there. We also take requests for bumper music. A few of the bumpers have been requested by Randy, a few others by other listeners. So, you know, if you feel like joining the conversation, hashtag us at Dudes and Beer with anything the hell you want. Hashtag comic books for tonight's episode. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, hey, if you can't be good at it, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers. Keep them frosty. Take care.
You've been listening to the Dudes and Beer Podcast. Visit us online at www.dudesandbeer.com. Find our audio streams on soundcloud.com and spreaker.com/Dudes and Beer. Follow us on Facebook /Dudes and Beer. Thanks for listening, everybody. And until next time, drink responsibly.
She got down, but she never got touch. She's gonna make it.